The refugee crisis has been something that's been on our family's heart since the war in Syria broke out. One of the motivators for us praying for the Syrian refugee crisis was Ryan hearing the story of a young girl crossing the borders by herself.
We started praying in 2012 for this little girl, so our story started there. And when I think about the fact that, you know, she's somewhere now, 4 years later.
2016, Ryan went with the team to Austria to spend time with Syrian refugees.
So many of the families that we've met, you know, the ones that either have families and are separated from them or really don't have anybody else in the world, you can just hear it in their voice and feel it in their stories, just the fact that they feel so alone.
Through hearing his stories, I became obsessed with the idea of adoption.
What God's been doing in my heart, and as it turns out, my wife's heart back in the States while we've been here, is really calling us to adoption.
So finally we fessed up and kind of took it as a sign from God that even though we were 6,000 miles apart, He was putting the same thing on our hearts.
You know, we kind of thought that when I got back, the last thing we would be thinking about doing is having more children after she'd been alone with the 4 boys for, for 10 days, but is it completely the opposite?
We thought maybe a Syrian refugee, but there's a lot that goes into adoption. There's a lot where people want to make sure things are done right, and so just pursuing Syria wasn't an option. But after kind of putting our feelers out to other agencies, we landed specifically on Milena, which she's from Serbia, so that's what brought us to Serbia. Our adoption was finalized exactly a year after Ryan left. The adoption was finalized April 20th, 2017 while we were in Serbia. She was loved and cared for, and although it wasn't perfect, they did their very best. I think she was in a room with about 10 other kids, and that was their playroom, that was their bedroom, that was the life that she had. For her, it was like having 10 brothers and sisters. Her friend was running around the room and helping her pack her bags and just really excited for her. And she's saying, "You're going home with your mommy and daddy, you're going on an airplane." And that's one of my favorite memories. Her connecting with us, I think she had to get over the trauma of leaving everything that she knew. And there were tears and there was grief and there was, you know, then there was being a regular kid and trying to figure out what limits she could push and, you know, figuring out, oh, I can cuddle with mom and dad, and just a myriad of joy and peace and fear and anxiety all throughout the day, 24 hours a day. We were so fearful in some ways. We were worn down. We were broken with emotions. It was the hardest thing we've ever done. It was just knowing that God had miracle after miracle shown us that this was the direction that we needed to go. And I knew that that was exactly where I was supposed to be. It was right there with her. And I will never forget that confidence of just being and knowing I was where God wanted me to be. This morning I was going through my, just reading the Bible, and I came across the story of Jesus calming the storm. And that was the first time of just realizing that He is in our storms with us. He wasn't just hovering over those storms saying, "Be quiet." He was in those storms saying, "Hush." And I was so grateful. That was the first time I'd ever praised Him for not quieting the storms, but just His ability to be in the storm with us and take authority over the situation we were in. It's been nice getting to know Milena, not just bringing a person home, but getting to know the person Milena. I think she is courageous, and she's sassy, and scared sometimes, but you like to try and overcome those fears, like when you're jumping into the pool. And she's full of love. She loves to love. Her whole life is a miracle. Yeah, and she has her own story to tell whenever she gets older. Where are you going in a few days?
School.
School. That's right. Even though it was really hard while we were in country to see what we have now and how well she fits into our family, it's just always, we always fall back onto celebration because she's in our family and she's here and she gets to hear about Jesus and she gets to influence her brothers and make friends. And then my continued hope is just for her to be brave and to learn to be courageous because she's got that tenacious spirit in her to keep going. And so I just really see her going after what God has given her.